Divine revelation. Receive your heavenly crown in 40 days. A prophetic message for you. In the quaint little village of St. Mary's, the air was thick with anticipation, with the church bells ringing melodiously through the cobbled streets. The people whispered rumors of a miraculous vision, a divine message received by Sarah, a devoted mother in her late 40s who poured her heart out to St. Jude, the patron saint of the hopeless. With 2 troubled children, her son lost in the grips of addiction, and her daughter shrouded in doubt, Sarah had felt the weight of the world on her shoulders. One evening, as the flickering candlelight cast dancing shadows on the chapel walls, Sarah sank to her knees. Her heart ached with the turmoil in her family. Suddenly, the chapel vibrated with energy, and light enveloped her. In that sacred moment, a clear voice echoed in the stillness, promising a heavenly crown for her family if they embarked on a 40-day journey of faith and prayer. Hope ignited within her as she felt warmth radiate from her heart. "Imagine," she whispered to herself, "a world where my son finds peace and my daughter discovers her faith." With urgency, she sprang to share the divine revelation, her feet barely touching the ground as she rushed to the historic chapel, the heart of their community. As villagers gathered, Sarah excitedly relayed her message, her eyes wide with fervor. "Join me. Let's pray for 40 days, believing in miracles." Her voice wavered with emotion, yet radiated with unwavering conviction. But skepticism stirred among the crowd. Even her gentle pastor, with furrowed brows, approached her cautiously. "Sarah, faith thrives in the ordinary. Can we truly expect miracles in our daily lives?" Undeterred, Sarah grasped the spirit of revival, rallying the villagers. Each day of their journey brought whispers of miraculous healings and small victories. Lost items found, broken relationships mended. "Did you see the way old Mrs. Jenkins stood on her own today?" a neighbor exclaimed, eyes sparkling with astonished joy. The air around them crackled with expectancy, each prayer lifting hearts and minds toward the heavens. But as the 40th day approached, doubts reared their heads. Sarah's son stood at a forsaken crossroads, a choice that could either lead to destruction or salvation. The village held its breath, and anxious whispers filled the air. In that moment, Sarah felt a surge of love for her son and led her neighbors to their knees in fervent prayer. "Together, we must lift our faith high," she called out, and their voices rose, filling the chapel with a chorus of hope. Just moments before the clock struck the hour, an unearthly stillness blanketed the room, and within that quiet, a divine revelation unfolded. They were connected, each villager, each burden, intricately woven together in faith. Could it be? The promise of their heavenly crown loomed on the horizon, or would it slip through their fingers, leaving them with only shadows of disappointment? Before we continue, I need to tell you, YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. As the villagers held their breath, Sarah felt a wave of warmth washing over her, a tangible promise of hope. Was this the moment they had all been waiting for? Would they grasp the miracle lingering just beyond their fears? The air pulsed with expectancy, and Sarah closed her eyes, ready to step into the divine mystery that was unfolding. What lay ahead could change everything. In the stillness of that sacred chapel, time seemed to sway gently like the flickering flames of the nearby candles. Every heart clutched tightly, pregnant with hope, prepared to witness the impossible made possible. Sarah could feel the energy radiating from those gathered, their interconnected faith creating a web of anticipation that wrapped securely around each soul present. "Open your hearts," she whispered, her voice trembling yet strong. "Let us not fear what lies ahead, for in every dark moment the light of faith illuminates the path." She could sense her neighbors nodding in quiet agreement, their expressions a tapestry of concern and faith woven together. Suddenly, the chapel door creaked open. A soft breeze swept through, carrying an air of unfamiliarity, an omen perhaps of the extraordinary. As heads turned, a towering figure emerged from the shadows, cloaked in white, with radiant eyes that sparkled like stars against the night sky. A collective gasp filled the room, a holy presence, they thought, stepping amidst their prayers. "Fear not," the figure spoke, voice imbued with warmth. "Your faith has brought you here, united in devotion. The heavens have heard your cries." The words hung in the air like the sweet scent of incense, wrapping the villagers in a cocoon of peace. Tears streamed down Sarah's face as she felt her spirit rising. This was the affirmation they desperately needed. Her heart screamed with joy as the figure motioned to the gathering. "You have summoned strength from the depths of your being. Hold on to this love. Your son, your daughter, they are not lost. They are waiting for you to believe." A murmur of disbelief rippled through the crowd. "But how?" someone whispered from the back. "How can they change?" The figure smiled gently, a beacon of encouragement. "Change begins in the heart. Pray for them as you have prayed for yourself, with unwavering love. Each prayer is a seed planted in faith." In that moment, Sarah felt an overwhelming sense of assurance. The path was not free of doubt, not free of dark nights, but clarity sparkled like the morning dew, urging her to embrace the uncharted territory of hope. As the figure's presence began to fade, they were reminded, your journey does not end here. It begins anew. Trust in the love that binds you. With that, the chapel fell silent, leaving behind an echo of divine reassurance. Villagers slowly returned to their senses, eyes wide with wonder. Some stood, hands clasped in prayer. Others wept openly, feeling the revival in their spirits. Sarah turned to her neighbors. "We are to devote ourselves to prayer, daily, hourly, and fervently. Our children will feel our love, our faith." A sense of urgency ignited within the room, spreading from person to person. Many quickly knelt in their pews, voices rising in unison once more. The air shimmered with whispered prayers, dreams, and desperate pleas. As the final flicker of candlelight danced against the chapel walls, Sarah knew the battle was far from over. But she also knew they were not alone. For every moment of doubt, a flicker of divine light would guide them through. In the days to come, would their united prayers echo with the promise of miracles? As Sarah stepped into her new journey, the question lingered like an unsung hymn. What wondrous revelations awaited them as they pursued their heavenly crowns? The days turned to weeks, and within the small village, an atmosphere tinged with fervent hope enveloped every heart. The chapel, once a sanctuary of mourning, now pulsated with life, its walls soaked in prayers of desperation and belief. Sarah felt it every morning as she rose before dawn, drawn to the chapel by an irresistible force. The quiet before the world awoke was her sacred time, a moment when she could lay her soul bare before God. At the break of each new day, she prayed not just for her own children, but for every child in the village who had wandered too far from love and light. The neighboring families joined her, forming a circle of warmth and unity that erased the barriers once constructed by fear and anguish. Each prayer spoken became a thread, stitching their hearts together, a tapestry of unwavering faith. "We're planting seeds," Sarah often reminded them. "New life grows in the soil we cultivate with love." In whispered conversations and earnest talks amid the murmur of prayers, stories emerged of small changes in the lives of their children. "I saw Sam at the market," exclaimed Martha, her eyes bright. "He smiled at me, Sarah. He wasn't hiding." The others exchanged glances, their hearts swelling with renewed hope. One evening, under a canopy of stars, the gathering buzzed with excitement after a particularly stirring prayer session. Into the circle walked Jo, a former resident who had turned away from faith and family. Rumors had told stories of her struggles, yet there she was, alive and radiant, her spirit transformed. She held a small child in her arms, her eyes glistening. "I've been searching," she confessed, "searching for what I once felt here." Gasps filled the air like fluttering wings. Sarah stepped forward, heart racing. "And you found it?" she asked, her voice soft yet firm. "I did. In every prayer I heard, I felt a call. I realized it was time to return, to reconnect with love," she said, glancing down at the baby in her arms. "By returning, I found my purpose again." The villagers embraced her warmly, and a ripple of joy spread through the crowd. It was proof, tangible and pure. It was the transformation they had all wished for, lived through the power of prayer. As the weeks rolled by, nature began to mirror their spiritual awakening. Blossoms decorated the trees, and the air filled with the fragrance of renewal. Yet within Sarah, a weight began to settle. A question lingered in her spirit. Was this divine revelation a mere glimpse of what was to come? Could they expect even more profound changes? Then came a particularly stormy night, when the winds howled like wild animals and rain lashed against the chapel. Sarah found herself unable to sleep, an urgency swelling within her chest. She slipped from her home, guided by an unseen hand, toward the flickering light of the chapel. Inside, the congregation was gathered once again, heads bowed, voices raised in prayer. With each word, the wind outside seemed to hush, as if the heavens themselves were listening intently. Sarah's heart raced. She sensed that something monumental was about to unfold. "Pray for clarity," she whispered to herself. Then, gathering her courage, she raised her hands. "We have to trust that the answers will come, and when they do, we must be ready." Hushed silence reigned for a moment, until Sarah sensed an unearthly hush. Could this night yield the answers they had long sought? What revelation would sweep through the storm as they stood in the glow of faith? With hope threaded through every heartbeat, they awaited a divine whisper that could change everything. As the storm raged outside, the faithful congregation inside the chapel held fast to their prayers, creating a cocoon of sacred energy that felt almost tangible. Sarah stood at the front, eyes closed, tuning in to the fervent passion of their pleas. Each word seemed to rise, flimsy as the wind, but strong as oaks when united. They were together, bound by an unseen thread of hope stretching toward the divine. Then, almost imperceptibly, the atmosphere shifted. A warm glow enveloped the group, casting flickering shadows that danced like angels upon the walls. An otherworldly presence that whispered of grace and promise. Sarah clutched her heart, feeling tears brim as the warmth washed over her, uniting her spirit with the very essence of faith. "His presence is among us," she exclaimed, the words spilling forth from the depth of her heart. The congregation stirred. Murmurs rippled through their midst, like an excited breeze before a great revelation. In that moment, the chapel felt less like a building of wood and stone, and more like a vessel designed to carry their collective hope skyward. Faith radiated from every soul gathered. It was intoxicating, life-giving. The wind outside howled in response, and within that storm, Sarah felt it, the pulse of the divine. Could it be that he was answering them? Could the prayers they had sent forth be gathering like precious jewels, ready to unveil a treasure they had longed for? Listen, she urged the congregation, her voice rising above the chaos. Listen, for he speaks in stillness. As Sarah spoke, a serene calmness fell over the group, a hush as deep as the ocean. In this serene silence, a small voice broke through, but it was not a voice heard with ears. It was a voice felt in hearts, stirring like the softest breeze. Gather your hearts, bring forth your dreams, for they are not lost. The voice was gentle yet mighty, echoing within each individual, as if it resonated directly with their innermost fears and aspirations. A shiver ran through the assembled believers. It was the lead of faith, a beckoning to unveil all that was hidden. Those burdens they had carried, the dreams they feared to share, the brokenness that had clung, all of it was visible before the divine. They were asked to lay it bare, to trust in the restoration that awaited. Tears streamed down Sarah's face as she fell to her knees, overwhelmed with a sense of purpose and love. "O Lord," she whispered, "help us to trust in your plans, even when the storm rages. Help us to surrender." Around her, the villagers mirrored her surrender, voices rising in symphony, a cacophony of pleas and praises. They began to bring forth their burdens aloud. "I pray for my son who strays," one woman cried, while another called, "Restore our relationships, O God." Each supplication became an offering, a fragrant incense wafting toward heaven, wafting toward his listening ears. The air filled with an energy nearly palpable, each prayer reinforcing the fabric of faith they were weaving together. The flames of candles flickered in response, their light refusing to dim even as the storm raged outside. "Here," Sarah proclaimed, raising her eyes to the heavens, "we will gather, we will stay. Let this be the birthplace of miracles. Let us claim the crown of glory prepared for us." As she spoke these words, she could almost feel the sky grow even darker. An electrical humility coursed through her spirit. She knew that this moment was just the beginning. A new chapter was urging to be born in that chapel, nurtured by collective faith, fortified by fervent love, and destined for unimaginable wonders. What awaited beyond this night of revelations, when the storm finally passed? Would they emerge transformed, ready to embrace the heavenly crown waiting just for them? Or was there an even deeper mystery to uncover? Awash in anticipation, they braced for dawn, for the answers promised by the divine were just within reach. The storm's fury howled on, but the hearts inside the chapel thrummed with a rhythm of unwavering faith. As the congregation continued to lift their voices in prayer, the atmosphere thickened with an almost tangible expectation. This was their moment. Each prayer pulsed with urgency, a beacon of hope amid darkness. "Let us not hold back," Sarah called out, her voice steady yet tinged with urgency. "Pour out what weighs you down. Tell him all that is heavy." Murmurs of readiness swept through the assembly, and one by one, burdens were brought forth. An elderly man trembled as he spoke about his fears of loneliness. A young mother shared her distress over her child's future. Each soul laid their raw honesty before the divine, creating a tapestry of hearts laid bare. As they shared, the glow of warmth intensified. Spirits seemed to rise higher, reaching for the heavens. Sarah felt it deep within her. Something great was coming. The shadows cast by candlelight flickered like stars igniting the night sky. "Can you feel that?" she whispered to the nearest villagers, her voice filled with boundless wonder. They nodded, eyes wide, their hearts synchronized with hers, convinced that the heavens were drawing near. Then a shift occurred, shifting the air in the chapel, heavy with reverence and awe. The tender voice echoed once more, wrapping around them like a warm embrace. You are not alone in your struggles, in your dreams. I am here. At that moment, a few members of the congregation gasped, some even covering their mouths in astonishment. The sacred connection grew, overwhelming them with peace and assurance. With rising fervor, Sarah encouraged the people again. Visualize the dreams you carry. Picture your hopes escaping like birds into the open sky. The imagery ignited something profound within them. The heavy burdens morphed into visions, vibrant and alive, soaring toward God. Eyes fluttered closed, they pictured relationships restored, health renewed, lives transformed. The songs of hope swept through the chapel, harmonizing together to create the symphony of faith. The storm outside, once fierce, began to lose its grip, as if submitting to the power within. But then a quiet rustle flowed from the back of the chapel. All heads turned to see David, a quiet soul often overshadowed by his peers. He held a small, crumpled piece of paper in his hand. Sarah felt a pang of compassion for him. He had always been shy about sharing anything. "Please, David," she encouraged, her voice gentle, "share what's on your heart." He hesitated, but the supportive glances from the congregation coaxed him forward. I felt like a burden. I've been struggling with guilt and shame. I thought I was too broken to be loved." The collective intake of breath held the tension high. Sarah leaned in, feeling the softness of the moment. "But God sees you, David. Your broken pieces are precious to Him. He delights in you exactly as you are." A wave of compassion washed over the gathered believers. Many felt that same guilt and shame rise within themselves. It was a universal truth, a shared struggle among them, a reminder that vulnerability could cultivate a deeper connection with the divine. The chapel, now filled with healing light, responded with softer whispers. "You are loved. You are worthy." Sarah closed her eyes, allowing the sweet truth to pervade her spirit. In the days to come, what healing would emerge from these confessions? How would God transform their pain into a glorious crown, ready to be worn? The storm began to whisper faintly outside, yet within the chapel, a kingdom of hope blossomed. Each heart was a field ripe for harvest, each prayer a seed of faith, eagerly anticipating the rain. As they clasped hands in united prayer, Sarah felt the air shift once more. Something profound was about to unfold. Would their faith unveil the masterpiece that God had painted for them? The air shimmered as they awaited an answer, the dawn ready to break, teeming with possibility. A hush enveloped the chapel, a silence thick with yearning, as they awaited a revelation. The flickering candlelight bathed the faces of the congregation in a glow that felt celestial, and even the storm outside seemed to pause, listening intently. Sarah opened her eyes, feeling the anticipation mount. Then she heard it, soft at first, like a whispering breeze, but growing ever clearer. "Come, dear ones, come into the fullness of joy. Leave behind your fears. Here lies your place, woven together by love." The voice, gentle yet commanding, wrapped around each heart. Gasps filled the space as the realization washed over them. God Himself was in their midst, inviting them to step deeper into His embrace. The powerful words ignited something deep inside. Hope soared with every pulse of truth. "Let us open our hearts wide," Sarah encouraged passionately. "He is calling us to receive the gifts He has for us." With her words, the souls in attendance responded, hands lifted toward the heavens, brows furrowed in faith, eyes closed in surrender. It was a holy act, a responsive dance with the divine unfolding before them. One after another, they felt that invitation bloom. A young man stepped forward, tears glistening as he lowered his voice. I've carried frustration for so long, feeling inadequate in my role in life. Today, I want to shed that weight. Yes, Sarah affirmed, her heart leaping at his declaration. It is time to lay down what no longer serves you. The Lord calls you to rise in your true identity, beloved and capable. The room vibrated with affirmation. The bond of unity drew them closer. People began to stand, shedding their burdens like a coat too heavy for the journey. Then, amidst the outpouring, a soft but clear voice rang out from the back. What about me? I've tried so hard to be accepted, but I never fit in. It was Lily, a timid girl whose struggles often drowned in silence. Sarah's heart ached for her. Oh, Lily, Sarah breathed, you are not meant to fit in. You are crafted uniquely for God's purpose. His arms are wide open, ready to accept you as you are. A cascade of affirmations rippled through the chapel. We embrace you, echoed the congregation, their voices united, blanketing Lily with love and acceptance. The warmth of the community surged, wrapping around her like a soft quilt, enveloping her in comfort. The storm outside began to recede, as if honoring the unfolding moment. Rays of light broke through the thick clouds, illuminating the sanctuary with heavenly gold. The atmosphere crackled with joy as several people began to chuckle, tears transforming into laughter. This joy is unlike anything I've witnessed, proclaimed Martha, an older woman with a twinkle in her eye. The Lord is bestowing crowns upon each of us. Yes, Sarah exclaimed, her heart soaring. Feel the weight of the crowns he gives. Wear those blessings proudly. Each one signifies your worth, your journey, and his unwavering love for you. As the chapel shimmered with this truth, Sarah closed her eyes again, soaking in the beauty of the moment. Can you see how beautiful God's love is? She whispered to them. Let's not stop here. Let's take this out into the world. The crowd stirred, the energy palpable, and anticipation heightened. Whispers of excitement filled the air as they pondered how their transformed hearts would affect their daily lives. They realized they were not just gathering in the chapel, they were vessels carrying what had been born anew. The time to step out was now. How would they share this divine revelation? As they joined hands again, a final prayer rose in unison, invigorated by love and hope. Fill us, O Lord, they cried out together, longing for guidance as the dawn broke outside, brightening the world beyond. Little did they know, a new journey awaited them, a challenge that would test their faith in ways they had yet to fathom. What awaited them outside the chapel walls? What divine miracles were about to unfold? As the morning light spilled through the stained glass windows, casting vibrant colors across the wooden pews, the atmosphere buzzed with a sense of anticipation. All around, people exchanged glances, their faces alight with newfound hope. Sarah sensed the divine energy lingering in the air, heavy with promise. What they had experienced inside the chapel felt like the beginning of something extraordinary. Step outside and breathe in this newness, Sarah urged gently. We have received something precious. Let us carry his light into the world. With a shared resolve, they exited, the congregation moving as a single entity. The freshness of the morning wrapped around them, invigorating their spirits. As they made their way down the cobblestone path, each step resonated with purpose. Lily walked close to Sarah, still radiant but with a shadow of uncertainty lingering. What if I don't know how to share this joy? She whispered. Sarah turned to her, her smile warm like the sun breaking through clouds. Just be yourself. Your journey and the love you felt can touch others more than you know. Speak from your heart. The group wandered into the town square, where the familiar sounds of the marketplace greeted them. Vendors shouted across one another, laughter mixing with the aroma of fresh bread and spices. But amid the vibrant chaos, a heaviness clung to certain individuals. One by one, they began to interact, small gestures igniting large ripples. "Excuse me," a woman with weary eyes said to Martha, who had ventured boldly to a nearby stall. "You look so joyful. What's your secret?" Martha's heart swelled. "Oh, dear one, it's not a secret. It's a gift from God. Here, let me share with you how He loves us." As words flowed, a crowd gathered, urging Martha to share more of her experience. Like that, the ripple of hope began to spread. Meanwhile, Sarah noticed Liam, the young man who had spoken so passionately inside the chapel, kneeling beside an elderly gentleman struggling to carry his groceries. "Let me help you with that, sir," Liam said, the warmth of his voice radiating kindness. The old man looked up, surprise dancing in his eyes. "You're a good lad. Why would you help an old fool like me?" "Because we all matter," Liam replied, his heart full. "God loves you just as you are." Sarah watched as the townsfolk began to gather. Each one had a story, a burden, a need that resonated deeply with those who had just entered into the light of transformative love. The murmurs of conversations intertwined, filled with hope and healing. Soon, Lily found herself beside a girl who had retreated into herself, her head downcast. Remembering Sarah's words, she took a breath, gathering courage. "Hello, I felt alone too. Would you like to talk?" To her amazement, the girl looked up, a fragile smile breaking through her sadness. "Really? You want to hear me?" "Absolutely," Lily responded, her voice steady. "You are not invisible. You are seen and cared for." As the day drifted into afternoon, the warmth of love echoed through the town square. Here was a community awakening to their purpose, a constellation of souls shining bright. But then, as they shared laughter and tears, shadows stirred beneath the surface. A group stood at the edge of the square, scowling, their eyes locked onto the joyful assembly. The atmosphere shifted, a silent warning hovered thick in the air, tension unfolding like a hidden storm. "Friends," Sarah called out, catching everyone's gaze. "What awaits us may test our hearts, but remember, we stand united in love." With that, they edged closer together, a living tapestry of hope. The group at the fringe approached, their intentions unclear. What challenge would emerge? Would their collective light withstand the looming darkness? And who might they encounter in the midst of this unexpected trial? As the sun dipped lower, casting golden hues upon them, hearts pounded, listeners held their breath, ready to witness the next chapter in their divine journey. A question hung in the air. What would God reveal next? The tension swirled like a tight mist around the gathering. Sarah could feel the weight of the collective breath, the shared heartbeat of their unity. The group of scowling figures drew closer, their motions slow, deliberate, as if every step challenged the joy radiating from the townsfolk. "Stay close," Sarah whispered, gripping Lily's hand tightly. Her heart thumped strongly, one part fear, another part resolute faith. "Why do you gather here?" the leader of the approaching group demanded, crossing his arms over his chest, his brow furrowed like a storm cloud. "Your joy is unwarranted. Look around you. There is darkness all around." Liam, still kneeling with the elderly gentleman, felt a spark ignite within him. He stood, taking a step forward. "Our joy comes from a deeper place," he declared, his voice steady, like the sound of a bell ringing true. "We've found hope. We've embraced love. We don't ignore darkness. We illuminate it." The leader scoffed. "You think light and love will protect you? You'll only make yourselves vulnerable. You're but fools chasing an illusion." A murmur stirred among the townsfolk, fingers clasped in prayer, eyes glimmering with purpose. Sarah raised her chin, feeling a swell of courage flooding her veins. We stand against darkness not because we are ignorant of its presence, but because we know the power we carry. We are empowered by the very love of God. The leader's brows knitted tighter. Love? What good is love in the face of suffering? What can it possibly do? A hush settled in, the weight of his words momentarily silencing the assembly. In that stillness, Sarah felt a surge of the spirit echoing within her, an answer wanting to burst forth. She stepped away from her friends, her heart resolute. Love is not passive. It is the strongest force we know. It binds us in shared sorrow and lifts us in shared joy. It confronts suffering with compassion and turns fear into faith. At that moment, the sun broke through the clouds, rays streaming down and illuminating Sarah, wrapping her in a golden embrace. Gasps rippled through the onlookers, reflecting the divine energy pulsing in the air. The leader hesitated, as if the light had cast shadows on his heart. For the first time, doubt flickered across his stern face. And what if your love is not enough? Lily stepped forward, emboldened by Sarah's fierce declaration. Then we give it everything we have. We share that love until it breaks down barriers, until it heals hearts, until it transforms everything and everyone around us. The crowd nodded in unison, their spirit lifting, hope intertwined with courage, sparking a collective movement. Yet, as the tide turned, the air thickened again. The leader's scowl softened only slightly, but his comrades glared, eyes shadowed with resentment. You think this will end well? You will regret stepping forward like this. Sarah knew in her heart a battle was brewing, not merely against these opposition figures, but a spiritual battle within each soul present. We will not shy from love, she said, voice steady. Even if there are storms, we know the anchor of our souls. Our faith will carry us through. But whispers of dissent lingered, like cobwebs spun in the corners of their hearts. As the tension cratered, adrenaline coursed through the group of believers. Some hearts trembled, while others burned bright. They were witnessing a moment of divine unfolding, yet what would come of it? The leader took a step back, his smirk gone, replaced with a frown. The faintest flicker of confusion flickered in his eyes. What awaited this small band of believers? Would their light shatter the darkness that threatened? And as the air buzzed with possibilities, a deeper question stirred. What would unfold from this moment of confrontation and divine love? The stillness hung heavy in the air, as if every breath was a prayer waiting to be answered. The townsfolk shifted, eyes wide with a mix of anticipation and fear. Sarah stood, heart racing, sensing the weight of the moment. She looked into the faces surrounding her, friends, neighbors, each one a thread woven into the fabric of their community. The leader's men shifted, whispering amongst themselves. A tension crackled, sparking anger with discontent. But then a deep voice broke through the murmurs. Elder Miles stepped forward, his silver hair catching the radiant sunlight. "You gather to challenge our light. Let us speak of truth," he declared. A hush fell over the gathering. "You speak of love, but tell me," Elder Miles continued, "is it not also written that faith without action is dead? True love must dare to confront, must rise in the face of fear." Each word poured forth like honey, sweet yet piercing, awakening something deep within Sarah and those around her. "Yes," Liam exclaimed, taking Elder Miles' cue. "We may face storms, but we act in love. Love ignites change. It frees us as much as it binds us together." His voice rang with conviction, a rallying cry that stirred the hearts of many. The leader's face darkened again, incredulity mingling with disbelief. "So you propose to challenge the darkness with mere words? How brave, how foolish." He squared his shoulders, eyes narrowing. As the tension escalated, Sarah felt a warmth envelop her, a spirit so powerful that it felt like fire in her chest. In that moment, she glimpsed a profound truth. The sacred embers of faith could not be snuffed out by fear alone. "Love is our action," she shouted, her voice soaring above the discord. "It calls us to serve, to support, to lift each other when we falter. It empowers us to shine in darkness." A soft light seemed to shimmer around her, enveloping the townsfolk in a gentle embrace. Sarah could see expressions change, hardened hearts beginning to soften, doubts wavering. "Will you stand with us?" she called to the crowd, searching their faces one by one. "Will you choose love over fear, power over despair, hope over hopelessness?" A chorus of yes began to ripple. Through the gathering, a wave of collective strength washing ashore. In that moment of unity, something miraculous happened. A single tear fell from the leader's eye, revealing a glimpse of vulnerability. "You speak of love as if it were enough," he murmured, astonishment brewing on his brow. "What if it falters in the face of real suffering?" Elder Miles stepped closer, his voice calm and steady. "True love carries us through suffering. It brings healing where there was pain. It is not without trials, yet it claims victory in endurance and faith." With every word, an invisible thread pulled through the crowd, knitting hearts in solidarity. A soft breeze whispered through the gathered crowd, stirring leaves and causing heads to turn toward the sun as it began to set. An orange glow stretched across the horizon, a reminder that even in darkness, light breaks forth anew. "Stand firm," Sarah urged, emboldened by this newfound strength. "Together we can illuminate even the darkest nights. Let this be our stand, a testament to the world that love changes everything." Yet deep inside, Sarah felt the restlessness of unanswered questions. Could their collective faith withstand what lay ahead? Would the genuine love they spoke of hold true when crises blossomed? The air vibrated with uncertainty, and she sensed the winds of change gathering strength around them. As the leader pondered, silence embraced the moment. An unspoken question hung thick, waiting for resolution. Would they fully embrace the journey ahead? And what awaited them at the crossroads of faith and doubt? The heavens held its breath. As night descended upon St. Mary's, a stillness blanketed the village while the gathering stood united, hearts intertwined with hope. They awaited a response, a divine whisper or a gesture of acceptance from the leader and his followers. The air tingled with unbroken anticipation, thick like the incense they had burned in the chapel just days before. The leader's brow furrowed as he surveyed the sea of faces illuminated by flickering candlelight. "You believe love can conquer all," he stated, uncertainty lacing his tone. "But what do you truly know of love? Have you felt its weight? How can one offer what they have not yet endured?" In that moment, Sarah felt the breath of God filling every heart. Love is not just a feeling, it is action, strength, and vulnerability combined, she explained, stepping a little closer. It is the tears shed in pain, the hands reached in help, the laughter shared in joy. We each have stories of trials, heartaches, and struggles that have shaped us. But through them, we have found love as our foundation, our anchor. Elder Miles nodded knowingly, stepping forward to add weight to her words. Every one of us has faced darkness. You too have felt its sting. But the light we carry shines brightly in the face of that darkness. The leader's hardened expression softened just a fraction, as though the truth tickled an old wound that had long since threatened to scab over. "And what of those who do not yet know that love?" he asked feebly. "What do you propose?" Liam raised his voice, filled with passion. Then we share it. We begin with open hearts. Our journey has led us to this moment, with every prayer, each plea bringing us closer to the heart of God. We won't pretend to have it all figured out, but together we will ignite that love in others. Without warning, Lily stepped forth, a steady calm in her demeanor. "I was lost in despair," she said, tears glimmering in her eyes. "But through this community's embrace, I rediscovered my worth. Love enveloped me when I felt invisible. That is what will draw others in." As the leader absorbed her words, a spark of understanding flickered within him. He glanced back at his companions, some wearing expressions of uncertainty, while others began to waver. The day's warmth was fading, allowing the chill of doubt to creep in. In that moment, Sarah felt the Spirit move among them. She knew then that they were closer to a breakthrough than ever before. "If there is anything I can do, it is to love you fiercely," she declared. "Together, we can heal wounds we did not know existed." A silence fell over the group, each person contemplating Sarah's declaration of unconditional love. The leader's hardened walls slowly began to crumble, his eyes misting. "And if love is faced with rejection? If the struggle remains?" he asked, remorse creeping into his expression. "It will come," Sarah replied fervently, her voice rising with infectious warmth. "But we will not face it alone. We have each other standing firm in unity. So let the love flow. Let it cascade into the lives of those around us until they can't help but recognize the light within them too." Suddenly, the crowd erupted, affirmations cascading like a divine waterfall. "Yes, love is the answer. We are a community of hope. Together we rise." The leader's eyes widened as he sensed the unyielding strength of this gathering, igniting embers of hope that he thought had long flickered out. Sarah stepped into the light of the glowing sunset, her heart blaring with faith. "Here we stand, ready to usher in a new era for St. Mary's, a place of acceptance, love, and healing. Let every soul know they are worthy." With those words, the leader bowed his head, a lightness overcoming him, clarity dawning. "I see now, perhaps love is worth battling for. If this community can withstand its trials, cannot so too we?" A collective gasp echoed within the assembly as they witnessed the transformation before them. Hope flickered faster than a flame, igniting hearts into action. The leader took a deep breath, straightening his spine. "If you will accept me, one who often forgets the power of love, I will stand with you. Together, let us fight against darkness." Cheers erupted through the gathering. What they had feared as division dissolved in unity. In that moment, they could feel it. Love had transformed fear into visibility, burden into promise. As dusk turned into night, the village of St. Mary's glowed brighter than ever. The connection shared, forged under the stars, shimmered with the essence of God's Spirit among them. No longer were they just a community, they were a family of faith, bursting with the fierce love of God. And as they stood together, arms linked, laughter and joy swirling like a choir of angels, Sarah knew their journey had just begun. With each step they would take, they would plant seeds of love, brightening hearts and changing lives forever. And thus, the stories of St. Mary's would flourish, the tales of love conquering darkness, echoing beyond the village, drawing countless souls toward the light. This was their moment, a moment to reclaim, redefine, and rejoice. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive faith stories. You need to subscribe now. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. It really makes a difference. Comment your reactions and testimonies about this ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this manifestation. True servants of God understand the importance of supporting this channel through these actions.